This episode of the Off-Road Podcast is sponsored by Colby Valve.
Off-Road Podcast, episode 446, tent heaters and hot tents.
Tonight, Aaron gets away with murder, Coy goes snow crawling, and Ben gets a boost.
Welcome to the Off-Road Podcast, the podcast about everything off-road. We cover the news, review products, and interview people in the off-road industry. Your hosts tonight are Aaron, Coy, and my name is Ben. And welcome to the show. So, Aaron, I gotta hear it. How'd you get away with murder?
Diabolical. Well, I ran through an intersection way faster than I should have been, and I got a speeding ticket from a camera back in December. And I took Coy's advice. I just ignored it. Some of the best advice Coy's ever given me, probably. Coy's reasoning was it wasn't sent certified mail, so how can they prove that you got a ticket? They don't know that it made it to your house, especially with how good the postal service is. And then I got a letter in the mail a couple days ago, and I just kind of let it sit. It was from the same city that sent me the ticket. And I just kind of sat on it for a little bit. I better open it up. And I opened it up, and it says dismissed. Yeah.
I also looked through all the statutes and stuff. I went deep into like Oregon law. I spent way too much time. Took your ticket like personal. And if they don't send
I appreciate that. I really do.
If they don't send it out within 10 days, it's null and void. And they send it to you like 2 months later. And that's like super easily proven.
Yeah. So it was canceled because let's see here. This group of citation warrant dismissal because of concerns that speed limit signage was installed in a manner that may have made it difficult for some drivers to see under some circumstances. And I definitely didn't see it. And it was like road construction, so the ticket was even more expensive.
Ooh,
well, and they lowered the speed limit in that stretch.
Yeah. So $325 is what it was going to cost. I mean, I wasn't going to pay it. I would have paid a lawyer $500 to get out of a ticket, so I wouldn't have to pay the government $325. But yeah, got out of it, and I had absolutely no idea, and I'd been driving through that area for a week prior to me getting that ticket, and I had no idea that the speed had changed. I knew there was a construction zone. They've been doing construction there for like a year now, but apparently they had just lowered the speed limit recently. And so anyways, got out of it.
Awesome for us, but horrible for you. If that whole week you got a ticket like every day, and you just every day for like 6 days, because they're sending it 2 months out, you're just getting a ticket every day just sent to you.
I'm sure I would have noticed, because I noticed when I got this one, because the lights in the because I drove through it 5:30 in the morning, and the lights in the intersection just go flash, super bright. So
that's one of the reasons anytime I'm running a yellow light, I just hold my hand in front of my face like this.
Well, it wasn't a red light, and I didn't know I was speeding, so I was doing 40.
If they ever send me a ticket, I'll be like, you can't clearly see my face. So
yeah,
like, yeah.
I was doing 46 and a 45, which was actually a 35 according to this paperwork. So anyway, so yeah, got away with it. Gonna do it again tomorrow. We'll see. Also, speaking of the mail.
Yeah, yes. You can't say me.
Also, I got some other stuff in the mail, some fan mail from Leroy Engineering.
That's cool. I haven't gotten any of that. So
you don't drive a Nissan, that's why.
This
really cool.
I'm Wolverine.
Yeah. Wolverine.
So he sent me these brackets. I'm pretty sure they are relocation brackets for the ABS lines on my Nissan. So Nissan's Nissan Frontiers, Pathfinders. They probably fit Titans and Xteras. So gonna put those on. I plan to do that today when I went out to go tune my truck. Speaking of the mail, this is a mail heavy episode. Not just because we're males, but yeah. After the show last week, I purchased a Z1 tuner so that I could goof around with my traction control and see if maybe that would fix the issue, and maybe that would make my stumbling go away. And about Wednesday last week, I finally got the tracking. It said it'd be here Monday. I'm like, wow, I paid a lot of money to get that shipped for it to take 6 days to get here. And last night when I went to bed, I checked it and it still said it was going to come here today. I'm like, sweet, I'll get it tuned. I'll goof around with it after work. I'll be able to talk about it on the podcast. I get home, there's no packages. So I check the FedEx app and it's like unknown where the package is. They just have no idea.
It's in Troutdale. It's always
no, they didn't even know. They didn't even know it was in Troutdale. And then after dinner, I checked again, and it said it had arrived in Portland and it'd be delivered tomorrow. So we'll see.
I hate that so much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyways, and then one more thing. I got this book in the mail. I did a lot of mail stuff, I'm telling you. A couple, maybe a month ago. And I just finished reading through it. This was great. Yeah, that scanner would work for an Xterra, Josh. But probably have to be a second gen Xterra, not a first gen. 4x4 suspension handbook. This was a really good read. It's pretty dated. It was written in like 2007. So they actually don't even have any information about the JK in here. They mentioned the JK and that it had just come out, but the fun thing is it was written by our buddy Trent McGee, who we've had on the show a couple times. He works for Center Force Clutch now. We also had him on to talk about Ultimate Adventure. So I'm going to reach out to him, let him know I read his book. I had no idea he wrote this till it showed up, and I was kind of glancing at the author's name. But I'm going to let him know that I read his book. It was great, and I'm looking forward to an update on it. So, yeah, that's what I did. Ben, it says you got a boost. You get your COVID booster? Because you're starting to feel sick.
No COVID booster. I did some boosting first. I traded my minivan in, and if you look behind me, I acquired a new vehicle temporarily. That's a 2000.
Is that a Ford Ranger?
That's a 2021 Tundra.
Ford Ranger, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
I didn't know Pete had a Ford Ranger.
Honestly, from the front end, if you just see that, it has a tiny bit of a like 2013 Ridgeline look to it. You notice that? Just the way the camera's pushing that headlight and the angle. When I first looked up, I was like, he has a Ridgeline in there? And I was like, oh, it's Pete's Tundra.
Yeah. So Nicholas from Cement Tuning came up, and he tuned my 4Runner and Pete's Tundra. I drove Pete's Tundra. Let's see, when did I pick that up? Wednesday, I think it was. And I hooned it around, got a feel for how it felt on the road.
Needs new tires now.
Yep, needs new tires. Yep, definitely needs new tires. Especially after
tires, new tires and brakes, new tires, new brakes, and there's a dent in the back quarter panel. I don't know where that came from.
Driveline makes a thunk. You're gonna need to get some new airbags on the side curtain. I don't. They went off randomly. Not sure. Also, large scan on safe side.
Hey, but the headlights are replaced. So I've been driving that around, kind of get a feel for it, and then it got tuned, or my 4Runner got tuned first, and what a difference! Like, it felt like it was stock again. I went with the medium first, and it felt stock again. Like there wasn't 33-inch tires under there, and skid plates and bumpers. Well, there's half the skid plates there, but you know, it felt like it had more power and all that. And then I came back and I said, you know, I like my food spicy, so jalapeno that up. and I took the Tundra first spin, and I left the neighborhood, and tires went.
Cole, I just gotta say, I got your back. In the show notes before the show, Ben had written down that he tuned the 4Runner and the Tundra, and I changed it to read that he had it tuned. So Ben was trying to take the credit for doing the work. I just want to let you know. I got your back.
Yep.
Did you and Cole do that thing where you stand in front of each other and like, move your hands? So you're like, oh.
No, actually, he got out of his car and he spread his arms and he said, "Son," and I yelled, "Daddy."
In the comments, Cole says, not gonna lie, his child called me dad twice while I was at his house. So it wasn't
That's
just
amazing.
us.
That is
Listeners
amazing.
noticed this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really could be family. Probably
Remember
are.
that old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? I think it's called Twins, where it's like him and
Danny DeVito.
And he's like, they're like standing there, like moving exactly the same face to face. It's like, oh, you are my twin.
That was the first movie I ever saw in the movie theaters, Coy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Knowing his father, brother. And then so something cool with Pete's Tundra is it's got tow mode. So Pete's rig is tuned with medium, and then when you hit the tow haul button, it's spicy. And spicy's fun.
Does your 4Runner doesn't have a
No
extra
special-
an ECT button or tow haul or anything, so you can't do both?
None of those cool buttons.
That's a bummer.
It's just spicy, which is fine. I like it spicy.
It is nice that you have a button, because everybody who's ever had a car that is automatically in the low power, and then you reach down, you hit that ECT or whatever, and it bumps it to the high power. You pretend you're driving down the highway, you go to pass someone, it's like you're hitting nitrous, because you get probably no more horsepower, but it just tricks you. So to actually put that with a tune and the super responsive throttle pedal makes it like 5,000 times more fun.
Yeah. I have that button on the Toyota Avalon, and I think all it does in the Avalon is it just lets the revs hang a little longer, lets you stay in the higher RPMs. I mean, there's no more horsepower. It doesn't feel like there's anything. But I definitely use it if I'm going to be passing somebody in a sketchy spot. Well, that's great. You told me on Saturday, you called me Saturday and told me that you were super happy with that tune, and I'm really excited and jealous, but more excited than jealous. Now that you guys, you won't have as hard of a time keeping up with my truck.
I was gonna say you're so excited. P8 swap truck. Screw you, Aaron. I'm jealous.
Oh man.
Making Pete's wife mad.
Truck has double the power of my FJ and twice the aerodynamics. And you're like, oh, I'm so jealous about your tune.
Twice the aerodynamics. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I've got to say, I'm really happy. I know Pete's gonna be happy. Definitely not searching gears going up the hill. And then, I mean, that was his big thing, was getting the better throttle response, and then the not searching for gears on the hill when he's towing. So, because he's got a big heavy trailer that he tows with that Tundra.
We've got Mr. Plow Guy Dave in the comments, and he says, I need to deal with that snow behind Coy. So I don't know if he wants to go snow wheeling or if he wants to come plow your driveway, Coy.
I wish this was my driveway. I mean,
yeah,
really actually add to my commute, but it'd still be cool.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Josh says I should just get a Tacoma. Then I could get something tuned.
No. I mean, that makes sense. I don't know though. I broke my Toyota this weekend. And it's
What?
Right,
you went snow wheeling.
Expensive break I've done. Like, this is thousands of dollars. Like, it's not gonna be cheap.
You went snow wheeling, and snow wheeling is like the softest wheeling you can do. How do you break something snow wheeling?
So this wasn't just your regular snow, man. It has melted and refroze and washed out. I call it like snow rock crawling, because you'd be driving in the snow, then there's this part that's the water has like melted and you got to crawl down in it. There's humps of it. Ben, if you go, I added a few pictures, should be at the top of our pictures there. I didn't really take any pictures, so I just told other people's, but so there was a couple big trucks there. That is a
What does that guy have? What does that guy have on top of his pickup?
It is like a washer or washer drum fire pit thing.
I gotcha.
This is a local guy who just has the sweetest, I don't know, late 80s Toyota pickup built on like 39s. I see him in the mountains all the time. Yeah, has the greatest Toyota though. But it had all these melt out sections, and if you keep going through them, you'll see one kind of. That's just the whole group that was up there. There you go. It was a whole that was a melt out section that you're like crawling through, and the snow's, you're like in a ravine of snow. Chuck Holt says we call that soft rocks. That's a good name. We always call it snow crawling, but that almost makes more sense. But it doesn't happen that down here. At least I don't get into it that much. So I super loved it. But as I was doing this on the way up, there was this section, and it's snow, so it's hard to see when like water has made like a ditch or something through it. So I crawled across this one ditch, and it was a good drop, but I kind of went at an angle with the front. So one front tire and then the other crossed it kind of separately. But then as I turned to follow the way it was going, I hit it with both back tires at the same time. And when it got to the edge, it just slid in, like when your feet slide out from under you, and slammed down so hard, it broke my seat, just slammed to the ground. So on my Toyota, it has this little lever you pump, and it lifts the back of the seat up and down. I always run it all the way up so I have better view. It like hurt my teeth. It slammed so hard. I mean, the truck slammed pretty hard, but then the whole seat just, and the back of the seat, like the actual lean back, it skipped like 3 notches. Like it actually leaned back. I thought I completely blew the seat out. I was like, oh no, it just jumped. So I looked into it a little bit, and since
comment section, you know what to do.
Yeah, light him up.
Just light him up. Let's hear it.
So I'm so heavy, I broke a Toyota. Yes, I think he is.
Anyways, my comment would be like, you need to have less cheese dip.
It's so this seat, that actual lever that you pull on it. I've noticed it. You jack it all the way up, and then like 3 days later, it's like halfway down, and it uses some kind of clock spring action, and it slips or something. Keto time. It's something. Right now, it's wood block time to hold my seat up. It feels like I'm falling in a toilet right now because this back of the seat's jammed down so far, so I have to lean it forward a bunch to get kind of my normal. But then super uncomfortable.
Anyways, you got a piece of wood jammed up behind it so it doesn't go backwards anymore.
It's not that it goes backwards. The back of the seat goes down. Like it's
no, I know, but you said it reclined 3 positions too.
Well, I think that was just it like slammed so hard the lever jumped. But
okay,
because it notches in all fine still.
Was your wife with you? Was she in the rig with you when that happened?
Oh yeah.
How'd that go?
Oh,
I know my wife wouldn't be happy about that.
Anyway, so FJ Cruiser's the side curtain airbag is in the side bolster of the seat. Apparently, an FJ Cruiser seat is like $3,000 because there's an airbag in it. So, that's
ouch.
Definitely my most expensive brake. So I'm gonna pull it apart and see if I can fix something, or just screw it and just permanently have it in the most tallest position. And if not, I'm gonna just go get a suspension seat out of the side by side or something. I'm not
100%. Yeah, why would you spend
for $3,000?
Yeah, why would you spend $3,000 on a factory seat when you could get a suspension seat?
And since mine is a Trails team, it's color match tan. So to get one that like I would have to get it. Yeah, not gonna happen. But it was a great wheeling trip. Like I said, cool crawling. I was aired down to 4 PSI, chugging around, had a great time. Spent pretty much all day doing that. We had a fire, cooked some popcorn, some Jiffy Pop up there, and then came down. And it was just one of those wheeling trips where like you could make it because it was that soft rocks or snow crawling or whatever we're calling here. We had like, there was a guy in a Tahoe in like 31s at the back of the trail. So you could kind of make it as hard as you wanted, depending on the line you picked. So we just had a great time doing that. And then Saturday, to round out my weekend, I'm not exactly a football guy, but so a friend of mine had just gotten a new suppressor for his 6.5. So we sighted that in at my house, and man, I need a suppressor. So we shot it once. We shot it once without the suppressor. He puts the suppressor on and shoots it, and then we'd walked inside for some reason, and they're like, "How did it sound with the suppressor?" And they're like, "I only heard you shoot it one time." And I was shooting on my back patio, and the girls were inside in the kitchen. So Aaron, you know how close that it was, and it was weird. He had it was a 30, or I think it's technically a 38 caliber suppressor. We put it on his 5.56, way louder than his 6.5.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, it was crazy. But that was pretty much rounded my weekend out. It was a good weekend because I just did stuff that I like to do and didn't do any grown-up responsibility stuff. Chuck Holt says you could get a set of PRPs for cheaper than one FJ seat. Plow Guy Dave says your seat was broken, but can you imagine eating that whole slam with your spine? I think it like actually made more slam by breaking because everybody else in the truck was fine. And yeah, I definitely felt like I got slammed.
Aaron, who was it we were talking to?
It was them.
It was
PRP.
PRP.
Yep. Yeah. So maybe we need to get PRP on the show.
And they could send me a suspension seat.
We sat down and talked with them quite a bit when we were at SEMA.
Let's do it because I mean I'll pay good money for a seat, but I ain't breaking 1,000. Just absolutely not.
I'm on car-part.com and they aren't that expensive
For a junkyard one?
Yeah, for a wrecking yard seat. And
I mean, do you think it's a good idea to get a wrecking yard seat with an airbag in it though? Like
if it's not
if the
blown,
airbag didn't deploy, then it should be fine.
yeah. What do they what's the charge on Car-Part?
$200 to $500. Oh, here's a Trail Teams red set, a pair of them for $790.
That's not horrible.
Yeah,
No.
I posted in our group chat 2 different seats. One of them's a full FJ seat list of all black, and then there's a set of PRP seats in Auburn by me.
I'm mostly seeing leather or gray. I'm not seeing anything tan though. So
Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that the upholstery on my seat you can like unhook and take off and put it back on those. But the airbag is built into the seat frame. So
yeah,
I haven't, like I said, I haven't looked in it too much. I may be able to just, spend a couple $100 on another stock seat.
Yeah, $270 is the closest one. Oh wow, it's all the way up in Marysville, so you'd have to go see Ben. But yeah.
Well, so that Toyota reliability, my seat broke. It's not able to handle a, red-blooded gravy seal.
Full grown man.
Yeah.
Fully developed. All right. Well, we didn't get any listener feedback this week, but we'll just take this minute to remind you guys that we've got that hotline you can call 605 Spotter, SPOTTER, 605 Spotter.
1 second. We do have a listener question that I will read to you.
Oh yeah.
So
that's right. I forgot. We did get some listener feedback.
Yeah, technically not feedback, but they wrote in with a question. It's hey dudes, Mike from the Let's Go Hunt podcast. One of our guys pointed out to me last night while we were recording, y'all might have some good insight for me on suspension for the Prado. Wonder if I might pick your brain. So he has a 97, which would be basically a 3rd gen runner, imported Prado, lives in America, and was curious about suspension. He does a lot of hunting and stuff. So he loads it up with all his gear and camp stuff, and it's squatting real bad. So what are your guys' thoughts? Who should you look at? What should you do?
If he just does camping and hunting and not like big wheeling, I think you're fine with going with something not top of the line. You don't need kings or crazy. You just don't need craziness. You can just go with, I don't know if I would say ranchos, but you could just go with something inexpensive. You just don't have to get top of the line. Even like a setup, and I'm not trying to say that they're not top of the line, but something like the Ironman 4x4, they've got some good.
They've got their nitro shocks.
Stuff. Yeah, they've got some good shocks and coilover things where I wouldn't think that it'd be big bucks. Cole says Bilstein. Absolutely. You can get some good Bilstein stuff.
Bilstein instead of Dobson Springs actually would be a good choice. I didn't think of that when I talked to him, but Plow Guy Dave, I guess, must know him. He also wants to drag a 10-foot trailer. So
I wonder if Plow Guy Dave is the same guy.
I would go with.
I don't think so, since this guy's name is Mike. That one must be Dave, but
I would do something like the medium load up front. Well, depending upon what engine he has, and then
he has the 90 horsepower turbo diesel, the forklift engine.
So heavy load front, and then do like a heavy or a medium load in the rear, because it's the 0 to 600 pounds of additional payload. Or if he tows, go with the heavy.
Leroy says peak suspension. Saniam Industrial says air assist spring. All great options. I told him I recommended Ironman. I said, you're not racing, so you don't need a racing shock. And honestly, you have to rebuild those every 25,000 miles or so. So that doesn't really sound like, that's not what you want. You're not looking for that ultra high performance.
Yeah.
I was like, OME. It's always, they're kind of decent.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Then I said Ironman. And when you call Ironman, you can tell them a Pareto and not a 90. You don't have to do the conversion math. Like they sell everything. And then I was like, you can get the nitros, or you can get the foam cells. You can get the foam cell pros. And then he was kind of asking me, which one I thought he should get. And I said, look, if you're planning on keeping it 50, 100,000 miles or something, you can probably be good with the nitros. If you plan on keeping it like long term, like you're not getting rid of this, just get the foam cells. So
Plow Guy Dave says that he's on the podcast with him. He needs gears also, and he wants bigger tires, and he's having trouble getting up to speed with just the 30s that he's on. So
I tried to recommend him some of those narrow 33s from Kenda, but he said he doesn't think he has the power for it. Then I told him to crank boost.
Yeah, it's turbo. That's all you got to do.
Make that thing blow coal.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Dave, not all advice you get from us is good.
It is advice.
It doesn't mean that it's just what we would do. And honestly, if I had a diesel with a little turbo, I'd make it a small diesel engine with a big turbo.
Yeah. Start cranking it. We also want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Patch. Head over to patriotpatch.co and check out their selection of great patches, shirts, cleaning mats, signs, and stickers. You can also join the Patch of the Month Club for $15 and receive a patch, matching sticker, and artist proof each month.
And let's not forget our patches shipped to you, $13 for the first one, $10 for any additional. And then we've got the glow in the dark lumen locker and our off-road podcast patch made by Patriot at that.
I like this advice from Chuck. You can always add 5 pounds to any diesel. Doesn't matter what it is. You can just always turn that boost up 5 pounds.
And I feel like once you've done that, that starts it over again after like a week.
You just do 5 more pounds.
And if it holds for another week, then you're good for another 5. And then once it blows, then the next motor back it off 5 pounds. That's how you know. like desert racers, how they say drive so fast that it's shaking so hard you can't see, and then slow down 4 miles an hour.
It's scientific. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. I mean, that's how the scientific method works.
It's man science.
Have tire troubles ever left you deflated? Colby Valve has got you covered. Ever have a valve stem leak? Colby Valve makes reusable and easily replaceable valve stems that don't require you to remove your tire from the wheel. They work with your off-road rig, ATV, side-by-side, commuter vehicle, or even your tractor. Never be left stranded again because of a busted valve stem. They also have a tire repair kit for those punctures that keep you away from doing your favorite thing, wheeling. Make sure to check out colbyvalve.com or ask for them at your local off-road products store.
All right, our first news. I'm not having a stroke, I promise. Our first news story it comes from The Drive, and it is the 2024 Toyota Tacoma 4x4 gets 25 miles per gallon in official testing. So, looking at this picture here on the screen, I wonder how many miles per gallon you'll lose once you take that air dam off the front. That is severely limiting your approach angle. Oh, there it's gone. Look at that. Someone took it off for that picture. So this is the next generation, the 4th gen Tacoma, and we've talked about it quite a bit in depth in the past. We did an episode on it specifically quite a ways back. And it only comes with that Turbo 4 hybrid setup. And but you can get an automatic or a manual transmission. So this article from The Drive says that it is poised to be the most efficient pickup truck in its class because of the hybrid drivetrain. According to the Canadian government, it hit that mark by getting 25 miles to the gallon. The U.S. EPA hasn't published its stats yet for it, but someone on 4thGenTacoma.com discovered that the Natural Resources Canada has already tested it. So they've only done the 4-wheel drive models. They've only done the 4-wheel drive models of the Tacoma. They haven't done the rear-wheel drive, so I would assume the rear-wheel drive will get even better fuel economy. So it's rated for 25 highway, 19 city, and 21 combined. And that's the automatic. The manual gets 18 city, 23 highway, and 20 combined, which is interesting because usually the city mileage in hybrids is better than the highway. So, and hey, Dave, absolutely, yeah, we'd love to get together. Everybody here hunts except for Ben, so we'll not have him on the show. Your ice itching there, Ben.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. And to compare that to the other trucks in the segment, let's see here. The Colorado, the Ranger, and the Frontier. The Ranger is second best out of all the group with 20 city and 24 highway, 22 overall. And then Nissan and Chevy are tied for last at 18 city, 23 highway, and 20 overall. So
That's because the Chevy doesn't have the diesel anymore.
nope, they did get rid of that. So
I want to point out to you guys and Toyota that back in 1981, they made a Toyota pickup that also got 25 miles to the gallon. I owned one.
was it 4-wheel drive?
Yeah. I even had 31s on it.
Wow.
It was a 22R and it maxed out at about 50 miles an hour, 55, but you had to shift into third to go up hills and stuff. Like it had issues, didn't have power steering, stuff like that. I'm just saying they've really haven't gained a whole lot of mileage performance in the last 50 years.
It's doubled in weight.
Okay, that's not my fault. Like, while you were doubling weight, maybe you could have done something about the mileage. I'm just throwing it out there. Like,
Yeah.
do you know
Doubled
how
in
many
weight and the
guys-
aerodynamics have probably gone down and then back up.
You know how many dudes I knew that had like full size, diesel Power Strokes, and they went and bought a Toyota pickup because they needed better gas mileage? I was like, dude, we could get 2 miles a gallon better. Like it's the same, and especially if
Yeah.
you put like 33s on it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we got Montana Dirt Roads in the comments. Says first time catching alive, been listening for a while.
Yeah, I'll be in Western Montana in June, and I actually might
So-
go to the Central.
So stay
for-
off the roads.
Yep, watch out.
In case Ben needs a tow or something, you guys should change numbers so he can use your shop to work on the 4Runner or something. Change the tie rods while he's up there.
Bring Rick with me so I have some AAA.
Yeah,
It looks
I got
like
28 plus miles per gallon in my 87 4Runner on 35. So I believe yours was probably fuel injected 22 RE. That was, that's pretty impressive. You were going downhill on I-5 for a long way. You're coming back from Colorado or something, but yeah, they definitely made vehicles in the 80s so you could get 25 miles a gallon in pretty consistently.
Yeah. Montana dirt roads. It looks like his thumbnail picture is an XJ, which we just talked about last week. And this next news article, we're going to talk about the XJ again. I wish I would have. I guess we're not talking about the XJ. We're going to talk about the engine that was in the XJ. But I wish I would have found this news article last week because this would have been great for last week.
Yeah, it would have.
I wish that
Take it away.
this had people had gotten this figured out like 20 years ago. But this article comes from The Drive. It's titled "Tuner Takes Jeep 4-liter inline 6 past 1,000 horsepower." Jeep's 4-liter straight 6 engine is iconic, much like the Ford 300. It's down and dirty truck engine that stayed in production for decades. Also like the Ford 300, it can make a ton of power when you throw some boost at it. Take this one, for example, which runs 27 PSI and boasts a dyno sheet showing an unfathomable 1,082 horsepower and 1,017 foot-pounds of torque. I just want to point out, remember last week when we were all saying how crazy it was that the new Dodge RHO 1500 pickup had like 28 pounds of boost, and then somebody in the comments said their Chevy has 29, and like this is what I'm talking about. Back in the day when you had high 20s of boost, it was insane horsepower.
Like
I'm not
this,
sure.
exactly.
I'm not sure what's going on now where you can run 29 pounds of boost and only make 400 horsepower, but back in the day, 29 it was nuts. So it's the work of, and I'm going to say this wrong probably because I've only read it before, but I've always said it Newcomer.
That's what I would say.
Okay, well, we're going with that. It's work of Newcomer Racing, who has spent years working with this platform. North Carolina shop previously built a Jeep inline 6 making 861 horsepower thanks to 20 psi of boost, but now they've cooked up something even crazier. What's more, the previous build ran water, methanol, and fuel injection. This one is carbureted and there's no meth mixed in. Stock block has been bored out to 4.6 liters of displacement, although it does retain factory main caps. There are, there's an aftermarket cast crank that's fully counterweighted, spinning a set of custom JE forged pistons, and that's pretty much it for the bottom end. Newcomer Racing. Hang on, I'm screwing up my computer here. Newcomer Racing did a lot of work to the top end, as you can imagine, with a heavily ported Edelbrock heads, larger valves, full roller rockers for handling high revs and valve pressures. A 650 CFM Holley carburetor manages fueling and is hooked up to an old school Clifford cast intake that's also been ported. As numbers neared those of their previous record setter, the crew went full bore and installed a larger 77 millimeter Pulsar turbo. This was the key to success as they managed 989 horsepower on the first pole with that blower before running lean on 116 octane Sunco Max NOS racing fuel. A simple jet charge was all they needed to achieve the final 4-figure power numbers. The best result of 1,082 horsepower with over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque is believed to be a record for Jeep straight axles. It may not stand for long, though, as Newcomer Racing plans to swap this one over to fuel injection. It could hardly beat those numbers. It could handily beat those numbers while being more controllable from a tuning perspective. That's crazy power.
Yes, he's making that it's a blow through carburetor. Like
how do you tune 29 psi of boost the car? I don't even know.
Well, it said that they at that one point they had to, a simple jet change was all they needed to achieve their final 4-figure power numbers. Just a simple jet change,
Oh, I thought that was a simple. No, they
simple.
No, they changed turbos, right?
Yeah.
Well, at one point they got a bigger
Yeah,
turbo, but
yeah, that's true. So here's
um,
my question: if you were offered this engine, you knew it was free, and they could set it up how you wanted, would you take it like this, or would you say, "Give me a smaller, more usable horsepower turbo. We're going to put it in my Cherokee, but
wow.
it's going to have 560 horsepower, but give me a 400 shot of nitrous on that." Where are you at?
Let me go back. Hold on. Let's pull up the dyno again. There's a dyno sheet. Let's see here. So it's making that 1,000 horsepower at 5,600 RPM. It's making 600 horsepower at 4,000 RPM. Like it's all at 3,500 up to get that. I'm not sure, man.
I just feel like
think
for daily needs, I'm never going to use more than like 350 horsepower. Like I'm just like blowing off tires in a Jeep XJ at 350 horsepower. But when I'm on the highway and somebody messes with me because it sounds good, having 400 of nitrous, I just like the idea of having the world's biggest nitrous shot on some clapped out XJ. And just like, you could literally like blow away a Lambo. Like it would be awesome. You'd probably get, death wobble and crash. And then the nitrous would explode. You'd die a horrible death, but like glorious,
My first thought was sand drags. Put some giant paddle tires on the back of a 2-door XJ.
1,000 horsepower, bro. I'm taking that thing to Texas. Like I'm doing it. I'm gonna be.
Oh, you're doing the quarter mile.
I'm doing highway pulls. Like
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna be in a 1320 video. I'm gonna be on speed peak. Like,
so do you put it in an XJ or do you put it in like a CJ, a YJ?
No, then you for sure will get death wobble. I'm definitely putting in an XJ. It's probably lighter, and just imagine like somebody's in a third gen Supra with 1,000 horsepower. Those are like high 3,000s. You're in a Jeep XJ with 1,000 horsepower. You're doing 50 miles on the highway. You got it in 4 high. Like you're just gonna dump it. You're gonna blow them away. Aerodynamics is gonna come in at some point. But I don't care. Like the video of all these built supercars getting trashed by an XJ, even if you have to have a full cage, it's basically a tube frame. Worth it. Like I would keep the outside rusty crappy too. It'd be amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
it would be just fun to like sit there and pull up to like some guy who's in like his Hellcat and thinks he's just hot stuff and just be like, give it a couple taps on the pedal and be like, ooh, and get him to go, and then just like absolutely launch and destroy him and just be like, oh, maybe you should quit driving.
You can get one of those current gen postal carrier vehicles that are really weird looking.
Oh my goodness.
Bro, I would also have on like a flannel jacket and a Bass Pro Shop hat. Like big thick glasses, old man glasses, I'd have a half smoked cigarette hanging out of my mouth, just pinched off, and just act like I didn't know what was going on. Just smoke.
You mean the guy from Donut Media? You'd want to look like him?
Yeah, probably. But I would look
like
the part.
You're wearing a windbreaker, hypercolor windbreaker.
Yeah, a Carhartt jacket,
a members only jacket.
Yeah, I think I would take it in big turbo form, not in nitrous form.
Either way, good times.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time for our main topic, guys. Even though I could talk about turbo ridiculousness for probably another 4 to 6 hours.
Chuck says maybe some trash bags strapped to the top, like full of pop cans, like you're headed to go recycle them to get your $14. Awesome.
I would strap a kayak on the roof straight up, just a canoe. It'd probably improve the aerodynamics. I can't prove it, but everybody knows it would.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh well, Coy, you picked this topic. You were excited about this one. What brought this about?
Hey man, I love snow camping, and I'm kind of ready to change up my tent and my heating situation. So I did a bunch of research on it anyways and figured I would just make it a show.
Is it because you broke your tent?
I didn't, if you've broken enough bones, you kind of learn the names of some of them. You ever heard of a green stick fracture? It's where you flex a bone to the point that it almost snaps and it just kind of makes this little bubble break on the side and it's extremely painful. Anyways, that's kind of what I did to one of the poles in my tent. Like you can see it's not straight. I'm sure it's fine. Like I could camp 100 more times in it, but I'm thinking about changing up. It's been a good tent.
Well, kick us off. Let's learn about how to heat your tent first.
So we got a whole bunch of tent heat stuff. I want to preface here. If you're sleeping in your vehicle, which is a kind of a sweet thing to do while you're snow camping, it's a little better insulated. Please be extremely careful because they are nearly airtight and the chances of you dying from heating in there, even if you're running like a candle, is like fairly high. It can pretty easily happen in a closed vehicle. So anything we say does not apply to people staying in their vehicle or even in a bed with a canopy as far as heat goes. Anyways, jumping right in, I'm going to start out with propane heat, man. Obviously, I think the go-to is all the Mr. heaters. I run a Mr. Heater Buddy, the Buddy heater myself. Aaron, I think you've had a big Buddy in the past.
Yeah, here's
all kinds here.
This is the big.
I think multiple people are clicking here.
Yep, there's the big Buddy
right there. It's the
it's got two radiant heater panels on it compared to just the normal one, and the big Buddy has a built-in fan as well.
Oh, I didn't realize it did.
Yeah, it takes like 6 D-cell batteries.
Oh my goodness, and lasts for 4 hours.
Well, I think it probably lasts for 20 hours, but 20 hours isn't that long.
Yeah, when you're doing it 8-9 hours at a pop. Okay, so all Mr. heaters that I'm talking about now have tip over and low oxygen shutoff. Low oxygen shutoff does not include like carbon and monoxide poisoning and stuff. It's just when it gets to low enough oxygen, it will shut off. I use at this point, I use a propane Buddy in my tent. I run it all night long. I have no fears of any problems because even though it's a canvas tent, I can feel the wind come through it if it blows like over 20 miles. Like it has vents open on the roof. Like you're not going to burn. It has enough air. And if you're worried about it, crack your zipper. All right. The little Buddy is 3,800 BTU, runs about $99, and can run 5.6 hours on a 1 pound propane bottle. Just has that one setting at 3,800 BTU. And they're made to just.
That's not all night, by the way. I usually try to sleep for more than 5.6 hours each night.
Yeah, it's true. It's, I guess, not all night, but
I wasn't saying that you said that. I'm just pointing it out. Like that means you got to change that bottle out in the middle of the night, or have it connected to something bigger.
But do you really need to change out your bottle in the middle of the night? Like, if you've got a good enough sleeping system, and
if you heat up your tent and then turn it off and then sleep till you get cold and wake up, that you can definitely do it that way. I've done it that way with my Buddy heater, which is the next size up, where I just warm it up and turn it off, so on. Montana, we're going to get into that soon. These are $100
all night long.
There's a bunch of people online that say if you go get, I think it's the 12-pound tank. It's that kind of pancake shaped refillable tank. You guys know what I'm talking about? It's like
it's 2.5 gallons.
Yeah, about 2.5 gallons. I think it's 13 pounds or whatever it is, 10 pounds. You get a 2-way splitter that's made to screw on those, and they're made to go sideways and then run a hose off each side. Well, you tighten that on straight up and down, and then you can put one of these little ones straight on top of that. See what I'm saying? And you can actually run it off of one of those tanks instead of the
little Buddy heater is what you're talking about.
Yes, the smallest one.
Yeah,
the little Buddy.
Mm-hmm.
You could run it off that, that one, and it's what is that? It's like 3.5 times bigger than the 1 pound propane tank, maybe bigger. I'm not even sure. I think they're 10 pounds. Yeah, there should be 10 pounds. So it's like 10 times, but holds like 10 times more propane. So you can run that multiple nights, honestly, if you decide to do it that way. Then we got the Buddy heater. That's what I run currently. It's 4,000 to 9,000 BTU. They run about $130 and 5.4 hours on 1 pound of propane. It's not all night again, a little bit less. And that's all these are on low settings. So that's at 4,000. And honestly, I now just hook mine to a 5-gallon tank so that I don't have to worry about it running out. But many times in the past, I've ran it on a 1 pound tank. I crank it up, I get it hot in there, and then I turn it down so just the pilot light is running. And then usually just that little tiny flame of the pilot lights, not even lighting up the infrared burner, is really enough. My tent, it's not very big. It's might be 6 by 6, I think is what it is, maybe 6 by 7. And that'll actually, usually with a warm sleeping bag, I sleep on a cot with a pad. It'll pretty well keep it warm in there all night unless you're in really sub freezing temperatures. So that's what I run. Works pretty good. If you hook it to a 5-gallon tank, you can run it like 3 nights full blast, no problem. Here's a new one, the Buddy Flex. I've never ran one of these. I've never even seen one in person out of the box. They have them at all the stores. It goes 8,000 to 11,000 BTU. It has a 360-degree burner, which is, I don't know if I like that because I always kind of face the burner so I don't actually light something I don't want on fire. That is one of the disadvantages of these. If you have it pointed too close to your sleeping bag or something nylon, it can melt it. But anyways, has a 360-degree burner, has an optional cooking burner. You can like pop it apart and there's like a cooking burner for it. Not really sure how it works, but costs like another $50 to get that. And it'll run 3.5 hours on 1 pound of propane. And then we got the Big Buddy. It goes 4,000, 9,000 to 18,000 BTU settings. So this thing can run some heat. It's considerably bigger.
Yeah.
They're about $240. And it will run.
All the price numbers seem pretty high. I want to say I paid like 150-ish for my Big Buddy.
I pulled all this off the Mr. Heater website. So this is MSRP.
Gotcha.
Okay. If you go down to your local Coastal Farm or whatever store, you can get it for 35% less, but I didn't want to undershoot.
Yeah.
Anyways, it'll run. So these you have to run either a 5-gallon bottle or it will only run if you're using the little green 1 pounders. You have to run 2 at a time. So I can't really do it off of 1 pound, but at the 4,000 BTU setting, it'll run 10.8 on 2 pounds of propane or 2 1 pound bottles.
And it's advised to run when you run a propane tank that you run the filter, the oil filter it's a filter for the propane because apparently those tanks are dirtier. And so run the filter with it. Otherwise it clogs it up and then you're sitting there click.
So I've heard that, but I've never experienced it. And I've used my Buddy heater quite a bit. And I've only ever run it off of my barbecue tanks. But what I did hear was that if you run it with the Mr. Buddy brand hose, that you don't have issues. When you use a different brand hose is when you have the issue. So I don't know if there's something in the other hoses that break down.
It's changed because even the Mr. Buddy ones like you get from Costco now comes with that comes with the hose and all that comes with the hose and filter.
It comes with a filter also. Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to guess that just maybe the newer hoses have some sort of oily coating in there.
And then another one that is technically made by Mr. Heater, but is sold by DeWalt. DeWalt makes a cordless propane heater. It's clearly, judging by the outside, it's just a Mr. Buddy heater. It runs 9,000 to 12,000 BTU, has 3 USB ports, an LED light, and a high-speed fan. They run about $180, and I'll run 2.4 hours on 1 pound of propane. I actually first was really thinking about getting this. You can, if there's a picture of the back of it there, you can put a DeWalt battery in it, and that runs the fan, and you can actually put the like big 60-volt massive 110 max or whatever batteries in those. and those fans will run a really long time. That's one of the downsides of the buddy heaters. All the heat just goes straight, literally just goes straight up. 3 feet in front of it, there's no more heat. You can barely feel the heat. Directly above it, you could cook food. So that fan makes a huge difference, I'm told.
They do. So the Big Buddy heater, I bought that because it had the fan in it. Previously, when I used my just regular Buddy heater, I had a battery powered fan that I would just kind of prop up in front of the Buddy heater to kind of circulate it, because I'd put it at the base of my rooftop tent with the vestibule on it, and it would pump it around rather than just having it go straight up. So is this a typo, Coy? It says it only runs for 2.4 hours on 1 pound of propane.
That's what I came up with. But if you notice, this lowest setting on this is 9,000
Is
BTU.
9.
So
Yeah.
even like the Big
I was
Buddy, you
wondering.
can turn down to 4,000. Now, I don't know if the 9,000 to 12, it seems like there would be a lower setting, but that's what I found.
Yeah, that's
available
strange.
online. So it's hot or not. And the other nice, I don't know if it's always a nice thing, the piezo lighter or whatever, I guess, is electronic. So if the battery's in there, you just hold it down and it just click. You don't have to re-click it every time. It'll just click, 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 click.
Oh, it's just going click like a barbecue. Yeah.
So, I mean, you could light it
Right.
without the batteries in it still, but if you have to turn it off while you're sleeping, you can literally just reach over and slap it to start it. Sounds like it's not quite as bad.
Gotcha.
All right, guys.
I was going to say, do you want to hit this next one also? I don't know anything about the Versta.
I'll hit this, and I don't know a lot about it, but so this just kind of got some stuff with other fuels, and I found this one interesting. It's more, I'm not saying you should run it, but if you like weird stuff, that's kind of cool. It's definitely an option. It's called the Versta self-powered indoor heater. They run about $100. You get them literally off Amazon. A bunch of people sell them. They're not expensive. In fact, you can find them for less than that. It says indoor safe, depending on the fuel used, and about 6-hour runtime. So they use, I don't know if you're familiar with like the canned heat or those cans of fuel. You can find them in the camping section, and then a lot of times they're used for heating like buffet trays. It's just it's a jellied fuel.
It's what do they call that?
Sterno.
Yes.
Sterno's another brand, but Canned Heat's a brand. There's multiple brands.
Yeah.
Of this. And they'll always have a runtime on them. So you can find these with 8-hour cans. They're more expensive. The 6-hour ones here are what they advertise with this one, but you can run the 3-hour can if you'd like. But anyways, you stick 3 of these cans in there, light them all up, and it has, I don't know if there's a technical name for these, but the heat goes up and it converts that heat into electricity and runs a little fan, really similar to what you see on top of like wood stoves and stuff. Guys will set those up there, but they're a heat driven fan.
Have you seen anyone use this like on Facebook?
I mean,
or
you can look groups? Up videos and stuff. I haven't seen anybody use one in their tent, but I just thought it was cool as kind of other fuel thing. And then you can literally, that picture, you could see the top where the fan unit is. You can just literally lift that off, and there's kind of a grill grate there. You can cook over it. So you want to throw, I don't know that you'd grill over it, but you can throw a pot on there or whatever and boil water or,
warm up your breakfast burrito.
Warm your breakfast up. Obviously, that's open flame, but these are made to be burned inside. Depending on which one you get, you want to get one that's actually done that way, but no safeties to fall back on. Like if you tip it over there, I don't know that they would pour out flame, but I don't think it would be good. They're harder to put out. You literally have to put the lid on it, or this one actually comes with kind of a little stick that has a round, almost like a flat spoon. You reach out and you can turn them off. Sanium Industries says Sterno is made from ethanol denatured by adding methanol water and
denatured.
Amphoratic oxide gelling agent, plus in recent decades the safety dye that gives it characteristic pink color. Anyways, I thought it was kind of cool. I don't know that I'd go buy one because you 3 cans, you get 6 hours. Like you do a 3-day trip, you need like 12, at least 12
a lot of cans.
Probably.
Yeah. If you're gonna run it all night.
Yeah, or I mean, if you're gonna run it for 6 hours or so, like And I mean, the upside is like there's not a lot to fail. Even if your fan failed, you're still running 3 sterno cans. Like it's gonna heat some tent. It's kind of an oddball one that I thought was cool. And then in other fuels, I also have candle lanterns. Excuse me, I said that. Candle lanterns. There's all kinds of models. Again, no safeties. You just kind of hang this in your tent. They make these 9-hour candles. They're kind of a prepper thing. They're not expensive. You can buy 50 of them for like $20.
Yeah, Yuko makes some. That's actually the one we've got pictured. They're pretty cool. I was looking at them when they were at the Northwest Overland Rally, and it seemed like a cool idea. They have a model with like 3 of them in there.
Yeah, there's a model that has 3 candles in it, and the candle, you kind of drop it in there. There's a spring-loaded device and then a cap. As the candle burns, it pushes it up against that cap, so it just always stays at the same height. Once again, it is an open flame. It's inside a lantern. It's not going to put off a lot of heat, but I've known multiple people that they just need, sometimes you've got a good sleeping bag, you just need a little bit of heat in there to keep yourself going, and you just hang that, a couple feet down, light it up. And
they make 9-hour, 12-hour, and 15-hour candles for that purpose.
Are the 15-hour ones longer? Will they fit in there?
They look like they're the same size. They aren't made by UCO, but it says natural beeswax, so maybe they burn longer because they're beeswax. I don't know. Yuko makes a 12-hour one, and it says it's made out of beeswax. So
there you go. And once again, it's kind of a niche thing. If you're into kind of different stuff, like some people just like that. Like I said, I know somebody that had not this exact one. They used one that used tea candles, and it just, it brings your tent, a small tent up, 10, 15 degrees if it's not windy anyways. And that's all you need sometimes.
Yeah.
Should I go into wood stoves or?
Yeah, let's do wood stoves, and then we can jump into diesel heaters.
Yeah. All right. Wood stoves, obviously a big plus of those is you can literally just get wood from where you're at, throw it in there. Downside is you got to keep restocking that thing through the night. I've even had, elk hunting. It's still a small wood stove, but a bigger one. Like you still somebody's got to get up and throw wood in there.
Yeah.
And the temperature control is a little tough. Like you will be sleeping with the window open, wondering if you're going to die from the heat. And then 4 hours later, you have hypothermia. That being said, man, there's nothing cooler than a wood stove in your tent, dude. I'm sorry. It's the coolest. It is the absolute coolest, especially one like this with a big window in it where you can see it. Now, I've personally not known anybody to do this, but I've been reading a lot. Like a lot of guys will go buy, they make 6 and 8 hour of those like Presto logs, or it's the compressed wood. So they just stick one in there, light it up, let it get going. Throw a couple, regular pieces of sticks and stuff in with it, and then choke it up. And it's supposed to burn, kind of all night. We'll keep low heat going. Once again, downside, open flame in your tent, dude. And when you're stuffing more wood in there, the chances of you getting like hot coals on the bottom of your plastic bottom, probably PVC tent, decently high. So you're going to want to get some kind of a wool blanket, fireproof mat, something underneath that,
they sell
not very flammable.
They sell wood stove blankets for this exact purpose, for tents that you stack your wood stove on. This one here, I like it flat packs, so it doesn't take up as much space as it looks like. It flat packs into that bag.
Yeah. So this, I believe that's the Pomali Traveler Series wood stove. That particular one's made out of titanium. And the stovepipe itself is also made out of titanium. I think it had 80 inches of stovepipe, if I remember right. I didn't write that down here, but also has a titanium stovepipe. It's like a 2 1/4 inch stovepipe's, very small. And obviously, to run a wood stove, you need a tent that has a wood stove. We always call them a wood stove jack or port. That's basically a square of fireproof material that your stovepipe runs through, and you have a flap that you open and close that with. This one, it's 14 inches by 7 inches by 7 inches. So as you can imagine, it's not big. Like you need small pieces of wood to put in this, which just means they burn faster. And the price is not cheap, but it is foldable. It flat packs, and it only weighs 4.4 pounds. So literally almost nothing.
Almost nothing. Yeah.
I bring 20 pounds of propane. So what?
It's almost a third of the weight of the other one.
Yeah. So let's see here, and $439. So, but it is titanium. Vevor, I picked them because they also make diesel heaters. This one is 1 millimeter stainless construction, weighs 11.7 pounds. It does not flat pack. The legs fold, but it is 13 by 17 by 11, so a little bigger. And it also has racks that go out on the side. You can like put your shoes on it, or hang towels, or hang your gloves from it. They're kind of drying racks, which I've never done in a small tent, but in bigger like elk hunting style wall tents, we've used those and they work very good. Sanium Industrial asked, can you run the pressed wood logs and blocks rather than the tiny piece of wood? Okay, it's right. Yes, you can. I thought I covered that earlier, but yeah, you can get those Presto logs, and you can get ones that I've looked online. You get ones up to 8 hours of burn time, and then let them get going, choke it up. And never tried it myself, but I've been told you can keep pretty decent heat all night long using that. But you're going to need at least one of those for every night you're camping, and some more weight and stuff you're bringing. But this one is ultra cheap. It's $90, and it does come with stovepipe. Also, I think 80 inches stovepipe. So I'm not recommending people run out and buy a wood stove. But if you have a tent that has a wood stove, Jack, I'm not kidding. It makes its own part of the adventure, having a wood stove to heat with. Like it's super fun.
Yeah, I've got a couple friends that have hot tents, and they run these in them, and when they camp, and it is so cool, but it requires maintenance all night long. I shouldn't say all night long, but if you're just feeding it wood, not Presto logs, you got to get up every 3 hours to put something in it. And if you haven't noticed, I need my beauty sleep.
Yeah, you're really lacking on it.
Travis Hudson in the comments says you can even use pellets in some of these. I actually did try and find like a gravity fed pellet stove, because I thought, man, you just throw a 50-pound sack of pellets. Like, it seems kind of like a no-brainer that would work really good. But I researched a lot, and they burn a lot of pellets in a short amount of time, the gravity feed one. So if you know of like a pellet powered stove for tents that's, not $4,000 or something, that doesn't need electricity and stuff, like I'm super curious. I think that would split the world of getting that cool wood heat and the actual fire. And if you could put enough in there that it would run all night, you don't have really any redundancy. So if your bag of pellets get wet or something, you're absolutely up a creek. But I mean, but a 50-pound bag of pellets is cheap. Like, seems like a great idea, but I couldn't find anything that I really would think would work. Next we have diesel heaters. Aaron, why don't you cover that, since you have one?
Tag me in, boss. Ben has some too. So yeah, diesel heater, love it. I wish I would have done a lot sooner. I'm glad I pulled the trigger when I did. Ben's had one. Have you had one for 2 years now, Ben? Because I just got mine at Christmas. 3 years. Yeah. So Ben's has it quite a bit longer. He bought the component for his first one and put it all together. And then the second one you bought was all complete. And that's the style I went with. I paid $100.71 for mine at Christmas time. It's since gone back up, but like not by much. If you got to pay $125 for a diesel heater, just spend that extra $25.
Yeah, it's $115.99 right now for the one that I put on the screen.
$115?
$115.99.
Yeah. So
that's
pretty cheap with the Bluetooth app even. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you can download Chinese spyware to your phone if you want to control it from your cell phone rather than from the remote control. But it really, once I figured out how to use it properly, it was very easy to use. I've decided I'm going to try to only run mine on kerosene, so it's a cleaner burn, and maybe it won't sit up as easily. I know that that's an issue some people have, is they can build up soot. But like when you when you turn it on, you let it run and warm up. Then when you're done with it, you let it shut off and cool down rather than pulling the battery leads off of it and just let it be off. I think that's when you get your sooting issues.
Most of the time, the sitting is people are running it on low for a long time, and it's not burning it all off, and then they're not shutting it off properly. That's like looking at what I've seen on there's a couple huge groups for these, and it's hilarious to see. Like, I've seen one where a guy had flames spitting out at the end of it because he had it all built up, and then he finally turned it on high, and it was just burning it all out, and his exhaust was all red hot. I'm like, yeah, diesel power.
So would you guys recommend, like, when you go to get up in the morning, you're going to change clothes and stuff, just crank that thing to high? You're going to be getting out of your tent cold anyways and burn that stuff out.
Might as well. So I used mine on the snow camping trip, and I ran it on 1 and I ran it on 2 out of 10. The settings 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10. That's the lowest is 1, and it kept the tent plenty warm all night, and it was in the 20s, so it wasn't frigid. So
yeah, I ran mine on 1, and I had to have the window cracked in mine.
Yeah. The only thing that I haven't mastered yet is how much battery does it consume. I just yanked the deep cycle battery out of my big camp trailer and had it all charged up, and I ran it 3 nights without worrying, and it still had plenty of battery left. So you got to think about what you're going to power it with. That deep cycle battery is about the same size as a battery box. So, and my battery box wouldn't power it, and then I would have had to figure out how to charge my battery box each day. So
one of the guys camp with on our last snow camping trip literally just hooked it to his the battery in his Tacoma, ran it all night, would get up in the morning, it would fire up fine, he'd let it charge for 5 minutes, shut off.
I ran mine off of my solar box, and I want to say on low it only pulls like 10-15 watts an hour.
Yeah, it's the initial fire up when it's got to get the combustion chamber up to temperature. Mine was pulling I think it was pulling 10 amps at startup. So yeah,
mine pulls like 180 watt hours, and that initial startup as it's heating up that glow plug.
It just seems like at this point, I mean, I've researched a ton more heaters than what I've even listed, but this is just kind of the basics. It just makes no sense to get anything else but a diesel heater because they're literally $112. They work. My only concern is I've heard, I mean, I know Ben, like, there's reliability issues, like, and you may not be able to, it's not like you can fix it out while you're camping and then you got nothing. So
yeah.
I mean, proper gear helps too, though. I mean, if you're going out with...
Well, that's your backup plan.
Yeah, backup plan is proper gear. Yep. And that kind of leads us into that. Well, we still have...
I mean, I have proper gear too. I have like a minus 32 below sleeping bag, but in, 30 below, which I'm still 60 degrees off of what that says.
Yeah.
You still are not warm at night. Like, it's... You don't die. That's what it means. Not...
I wanted to bring this up, and Josh beat us to it here, but he says it's a good dry heat too. Propane produces a lot of moisture for sure. Those buddy heaters, you can get a lot of moisture in your tent, a lot of water on the walls. I always when I ran the buddy heater, I ran my rooftop tent with like both side windows halfway open. So they weren't cracked. They were like halfway open. So I got a good airflow in there. And I usually kept the moisture out. I just get condensation underneath the bed. But this dry heat is something else out of it. And it's a forced air. It's not just like radiant. So right before bed, I tucked that hose into my sleeping bag. And I could only have it in my sleeping bag for like 15 seconds. And it was so hot. I had to drag it back out. So you start playing with that diesel heater hose.
how much do you guys trust your heaters? Like when you go snow camping, do you bring any other form of heat, or that's it? Like you don't have a backup?
I've got a 12-volt blanket that I can run off my Jackery, and I'll throw it in like my sleeping bag to like warm up my sleeping bag for me, and then I try to have layers of protection here. I've even got like a USB one. It doesn't work all that well. It's like a USB heating pad, but it's garbage. And but I've been looking for that, like those USB powered pocket heaters to throw in. I can never find any of the like my size of the Milwaukee jackets.
And we'll jump into kind of what to wear and sleep in and stuff like that in a little bit, kind of how we do it. But I just at this point, man, and I kind of hate to admit it, like the diesel heaters just make the most sense. Like
I did too, Coy. That's why it took so long.
I think I'm gonna get one. They're just so uncool to me. Like it kind of almost in a way it kind of defeats the purpose of snow camping. I'm like, I want to do something rugged, and then I pack out a diesel heater that blows hot air up my butt. Like I mean, I'm gonna get one. Don't get me wrong, but it bums me out that they're so good almost. But
oh yeah, the handheld heaters, and I got like a big one that's like for your back, and I've got a couple of those, and I've used one of those before just to throw in the sleeping bag with me.
And there's the Milwaukee heated jackets. There's all kinds of different heated blankets and stuff. All that is super good. Oh, Chuck Holt, yeah, I use lithium-ion battery heated socks. They run all night on lower. Like you really don't need much, honestly. If you got a good sleeping bag, like Aaron has said before, and I think I have too. I have like a medical grade Nalgene bottle. You pour boiling water in it, close it up, throw it in your sleeping bag down at the bottom, and you can just about use that.
And I've got a Milwaukee heated vest that comes with me on these trips, and I've had to use it when I was having Mr. Buddy issues, and I'd have that Milwaukee heated vest in the sleeping bag with me, and I'm cuddling around it. I wasn't wearing it. I was like spooning it, and it made a big difference.
I also, when I've got, it's nice when you go snow camping with your wife, because I have a double sleeping bag. 2 people. That actually really helps. Like you do stay
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then I'll just burn through this sketchy heaters. Obviously, there's some sketchy ones that technically do work. In all my research, a lot of Crisco candles. I guess you can just buy yourself a can of Crisco, stick a pencil in there, drop a candle wick in it. You can do up to 4. I guess they make a crazy amount of heat, even though the outside of the can all over it says do not expose to open flame and stuff like that. I guess they work crazy good, but are insanely dangerous because you tip it over. It's just like an explosion. It's a bacon grease fire in your tent, like immediate.
I might have to see if I can get some Crisco for my camp trip this weekend.
Yeah. Tea light ovens. There's some people that will take a flower pot with those clay flower pots with the base. They run a bolt through the base and then put the pot upside down on top. They set a bunch of tea lights in that bottom tray. The heat goes up into the pot and warms the pot. Like it all sounds really nice and cool, except for wildly dangerous in your tent. Obviously, anything with an open flame.
Oh, just put it on the table. Yeah, then the table tips over.
Any other ones like that you guys can think of? Other sketchy heaters?
No, I mean
just anything open flame.
The other one that I would put in the sketchy heater department, Aaron, is the one that we're probably going to try when we go to this one really hot spring that is over. Can get well over 100 degrees. We've decided we're going to buy a bunch of that thin plastic tubing and a 12-volt pump, and then coil the tubing under our tent, and then pump hot geyser water under our tents. We'll just set them up.
Yes,
we'll have a radiant floor heat. I'm gonna do it just for the genius of it. But if one of those lines breaks in the middle of the night, it's just spraying scalding water under my tent.
You're literally hosed.
Literally hosed. That said, sketchy AF, but we're gonna do that eventually.
Well, we also talked about buying one of those inflatable swimming pools and putting it in the middle of the hot springs and sleeping in the swimming pool, dry in the middle of the hot springs around you.
See, I would say that's a sketchy sleeping pad, not a sketchy heater.
That's true. That's true.
Well, they have those sleeping the floating tents. That would be good.
That sounds a lot more expensive than a.
Yeah,
Right.
actually, one of the tent brands that I have here does like a commercial grade version of those, but they're like $4,000.
Real quick, I did want to mention that I can't remember if it was someone in. I feel like it was somebody Koi knew, but maybe it was somebody else. But someone caught their rooftop tent on fire with a buddy heater one time. Like they went to bed drunk, they took their socks off, put their socks off over their Mr. Buddy heater to dry out, and it caught on fire in the rooftop tent in the middle of the night. So you got to be wise
sounds
about
like one of my friends, but I don't remember this at all. And
okay.
I would be. I mean, I know what my socks smell like. Like there's no drying them out. Like I stick those things in a bag and then tie it off in the corner right there. And also, I feel like Mr. Buddy here. You throw a pair of socks on there. I give it 30 seconds before they're on fire.
No, he went to bed like really drunk, is what the story was.
Yeah, but I feel like you wouldn't get to the top of the ladder before there was smoke. Like that's insane.
I remember seeing a picture of a truck that caught fire because of their tent catching fire.
Chuck Holt says our wheeling group is working on a copper coil setup for the to run inside of a bed of coals to heat a small hot tub on our spring snow wheeling trip. I have wanted to try something like that for so long, but it's just
I did
an incredible amount of work. And it usually takes days to heat up like that much water.
No, it took like 14 hours. So we started in the morning and we lit a fire underneath the coil, and it was like a 5 foot across. It's one of those hot tubs that you can bring camping with you, where it's like poles that click together and then the coil that goes on the in and out.
Yeah.
And we built a huge fire around the coil. We sourced the creek water for it, which was probably 33 degrees. And to get it up to the high 90s, it took like 14 hours. And then 5 people got in a hot tub that was 5 feet across. Like imagine 5 people sitting in a kiddie pool.
And if I remember right, those are like 19 inches deep. Like you sit down, it comes up just over your belly button. Like
it was maybe to my armpits.
The one I was looking at, I don't even think it was 2 feet deep. That's why I was like, no, I'm not doing all that work to get the top half of me frozen.
Here's where you went wrong with it. You should have used one of those InstaHeat propane water heaters. I think you have one now. And then
that would have definitely been pretty sweet.
To speed up the process.
Mm-hmm. That would have been pretty sweet. So yeah, it's a lot of fire to heat up cold water. Yeah. Let's talk about tents. We're an hour and 20 minutes already, so let's talk about tents.
Ben, why don't you take off this first one for us here?
Yeah, it's a 4-season Hellberg Janu. So I guess from my understanding, there's a lot of the 4-season tents. It's a double layer tent, so there's an outer tent, inner tent. And this one you can assemble from the outside. Like all the poles are on the exterior. It kind of makes it a little more expensive. It's got a couple different setups, but it's highly resistant to snow loading. So if you get a lot of snow over the night, like when Aaron was camping many years ago, and he got like a foot of snow in a couple hours, his tent wouldn't collapse with this. And then and good with wind. It's got really good ventilation. A couple different configurations on how you can set it up. It's 93 by 57, so that's like enough for 2 people.
That one has like awning / vestibule. I think they usually call it.
Yeah.
It's basically the tent extends without a floor, so you can keep your boots or a heater or something out there.
Yeah. That'd be good for like a diesel heater. Put your diesel heater out there. So it doesn't get rained on. And then it's only got a 40-inch tall peak. So it's not something you can sit or stand up in and change. So you're going to be laying on your butt changing. And this tent's not cheap at all. It's like $1,300.
That's something that I noticed is a vein of all snow tent, hot tent, anything that's a good cold weather tent, unless you're buying it off of Amazon. Not cheap. Like you got to pay for that quality.
Yep.
I'll grab the next one here. This one I actually messaged them. I'm not sure. Hopefully, I'm saying it right. Sonmez. They're out of Turkey. They sell worldwide, and they make tents that are literally like $12,000. They're almost like concert-sized monster tents. Yeah. So there's a picture of it. This is an A-frame one. Then it is called the Air Bushcraft Premium Tent. It has got a 6 foot by 6 foot floor space, and then it's 6 foot tall. And like I said, I messaged them, and they use inflatable beam technology. So there's no supports that are rigid. It's just inflatable beams. And they are made from the same material that they make Zodiac boats out of, as a PVC floor with 100% polyester waterproof tent material. It has a stove jack, so you can run a wood stove in it if you'd like. And it also is an option, but it costs like another $25. They have a port for a diesel heater, so you can set your diesel heater outside, and it just has a little flap you open with the right size hole. You stick the tube in there and zip it around it. They also make a London S Premium, which is just a more square version of this tent, essentially, with all the same options. And these tents are in the $1,300 range. Like, they're not cheap, and both of them you're supposed to be able to inflate these in under a minute. So
what's that tent, the trailer, like with the inflatable? That's what it kind of reminds me of.
I think it's similar technology. I don't remember. I know what you're talking about. The name escapes me. I like those tent trailers like that, though.
Yeah. Well, another hot type tent is pretty much any wall canvas tent. A lot of hunters use. They make smaller version than those that aren't too big. And then you can also get some of these canvas style ones off of Amazon. And it's like in a teepee model where it just has one center tent pole. And so, yeah, I've got a friend that has that style, and then they make some that are more of like an A-frame, and they have the whole side opens up. One Tigress, I think, is the brand for that. There's a Vevor brand one that's kind of similar. There's quite a few different models. This one, that Vevor one, has like some fresh air ports down low on it, which are good because you can't just put a stove in your tent and zip things up tight. It's got to be able to draw air in, otherwise the fire will choke out. So, lots of canvas options. Kodiak Canvas makes some really nice stuff. I've heard really good things about them. I think our friend, well, Ben, I don't think you've met him, but a different Rick, friend of the podcast, he drives an Xterra. He's got a Kodiak Canvas tent, so pretty nice. I like that brand.
Dennis
has
one
really
nice too.
Sturdy. Does he? Okay. Yeah, they're both electricians, so I guess they got a good head on their shoulders.
Yep.
Opus. The downsides to canvas, it has to be thoroughly dried every single time, or you will get horrible mildew and it will be stained and ruined. Even if you get a little mildew, it will stain it. I mean, all tents you really need to dry, but canvas especially, you got to come home and set the tent up and dry it every time.
Yeah, and it's got to be completely dry.
But that being said, most quality canvas tents will last like a lifetime. Like they're extremely, I mean, I know guys with army tents from World War II that they're using for elk hunting this coming year. Like, and they've used them for 20 years straight.
Yeah. The last style I put in here is an insulated ice fishing tent. And that's an amazing photo. Oh my
Isn't
goodness,
it?
that's gotta be from Amazon. So basically, most ice fishing tents are going to be a hub tent, and they're actually pretty well insulated. Usually, if it's ice fishing tent, it doesn't have a floor, but that can be solved by just throwing a tarp down. Or you could spend 2 to 3 times the money, and you could buy what's that one brand, the spaceship looking
The Space Pod.
Shift pod.
Shift Pod. Yeah, Shift Pod. Those start at like $1,200 for the smallest one.
If you
So-
look around some of these ice fishing tents, you can buy a floor separately, but then they'll have these like Velcro flap sections that you can lift up and drill a hole through for the ice. So they still have a floor. They're not technically waterproof, but I looked into this a couple years ago.
Well, you could get like if you have got a Gazelle. So like I use my Gazelle, but if I were to go out and get like an insulated one, and if it's the same size as my Gazelle, just pull my floor out, lay it.
Oh
in
yeah, I wonder if you could swap the floor. That's a good option.
Is your
There's a
floor zip in your Gazelle?
It Velcros in all along the side, and then
Oh.
it's got little toggles, I believe, in the corners, if I remember correctly, or it's just all Velcro.
yeah. There's a company called Clam, I think CLAM, and they sell this style of tent. And they're everywhere. If you haven't ever looked for them, you may have never seen them, but they're everywhere, and they're between $300 and $600 depending on how big you want to go or what name brand you want to use. And they're pretty sweet. And a bonus about them is that they're really, really dark inside, and so it lets you sleep later because you don't see that sunshine.
Yeah, that's something that everyone seems to always forget. It's like when I go camping, I tend to wake up at like 5 or 6 when the sun's coming up during the summer because it's so bright in the tent.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I'm really tired, then I just cover my head with a blanket.
Well, some other things to consider when you are wanting to sleep in cold weather is having the right sleeping bag. So you need to get it with the right temperature rating, and then also the type of material that it is made up of, down or synthetic. Down is generally warmer, but it can be compressed, and it doesn't work so well when it's compressed. But the synthetic stuff will not compress as easy. Also, when down gets wet, it loses its properties for holding heat, but synthetic doesn't. So
It retains some of the warmth, not all of it though.
Then use a sleeping pad. If you sleep right on the ground, it's going to pull that body heat right out of you. If you use an inflatable air mattress, that air will get really cold because of the outside air. Unless your tent is nice and warm, if it's 30 degrees inside your tent, your air mattress will be 30 degrees, and that'll pull the air out of you. Now, if you get one of those insulated air mattresses, that's a different story. But just a straight up fill it full of air mattress, those will be the same temperature as everything else, and it'll zap your body heat.
Yeah,
So you can do what Koi does.
I've got an inflatable insulated pad. And
Yeah.
so it's only, I want to say it's like 2 inches thick, but it's got like memory foam in it. So when I inflate it up, it helps keep its shape and doesn't compress as much, but it stays warm. And I even add a few extra things to it.
Yeah.
I use a cot. It sits probably 2 feet high and then has a 2-inch memory foam that you kind of strap on top of it. I will not use anything else for snow camping. I've used pads right on the ground. I've used air mattresses, and that cot is so much better. Like warmth wise, it's ridiculous. And then when you get up in the morning, at least if you have a tent tall enough to stand up in, being able to sit on your cot like a chair because it's 2 feet off the ground instead of trying to put your pants on top of an air mattress or pad, you're putting your boots on. I won't go back to anything but a cot.
Maybe when you're done with the seat out of your FJ, you could put that inside your tent to sit on.
That'd be sweet. Wire up the airbag. Case of bear attack or something. Check those does.
Dressing in layer helps. I usually am wearing like long johns, and if I need more, I can put more on over my long johns when I'm sleeping. Other things that can keep you warm, Coy mentioned filling your water bottle with hot water and tuck that in your sleeping bag. We talked about electric socks, electric gloves, electric jackets. You can also buy 12-volt electric blankets. That one I'm really leery of also because electric things consume more power than you know. And if you had an electric blanket that ran all night long, I would be afraid that you would have no battery in your car the next morning.
That's why. So I have that 12-volt electric blanket I was talking about, and that sucker burns some energy, and so I will only run that off of my Jackery, just because I do not want to drain the battery in the Forerunner and be sitting there. All right, especially if I'm by myself, sitting with a pair of jumper cables, going, "Okay, who's gonna jump me?"
You know what I could see that being valuable for, if you have, say, like something like I have a cot and a pad and a good sleeping bag. Once you really initially go to bed, you're pretty warm. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning where you wake up and you're like, good, it's cold out, and then you're trying to move it. If you had something like that, just at that one, just pop that on at 1 for an hour or two, and then turn it on. Like sometimes you just got to get over that hump to re-warm up your sleeping bag or something. So something like that might be good.
This next one is. Oh, sorry, Coy.
I was just to say, I cannot do a mummy bag. Like I'd rather sleep in my. I'd rather just sleep in the driver's seat of my truck in clothes than a mummy bag. So I have a good sleeping bag, but it's the nice big square flannel interior, so it doesn't seal super good around me. I wear a stocking cap, and then I have like a small blanket that you pull in. You kind of you're in there, but you kind of just ball it up, and you can hug it or stick it on your back to kind of fill the void. And I much prefer that, and I don't think it's any less warm than a mummy bag. But
yeah, I've got a Teton XL bag, and because it's wider, and the big thing for me was it's longer, because I'm so tall. Like your normal person sleeping bag, I have to like crouch in to get it to cover me. This bag, I can actually, it'll cover my head without trying.
The next one is like pretty much all three of our favorite things that helps us prepare for bed, and that's to eat high energy foods. You consume some high calorie, high fat foods before bed, and your body's going to generate heat as it's digesting all that food, and that digestion is going to keep you warm because your body's working. It's like it's burning calories while it's working. I mean, it's your body's exercising while you're sleeping. That's amazing. So it's important to eat those high calorie foods.
Act like a bear, sleep like a bear, man.
That's it.
Eat a bunch of steak, really rare, right over the fire, and then just hibernate.
Nacho cheese. You got. I mean, that's got to be a high calorie, high fat food.
Oh, I'm sure
the way I make it.
You're letting out while you're sleeping will help warm up your sleeping bag too.
Yeah.
Careful, you might shut your heater off.
Triple oxygen sensor. Yeah. And obviously going to bed dry is important. You want to make sure you don't have wet clothes on.
Yes, search and rescue. Our big thing was cotton kills, so synthetic fibers and all that. Even if it's wet, it's gonna keep your body warm versus cotton will not. So yeah, keeping your gear dry. Wool socks is another big one.
I didn't actually think about this till you guys just said this. I do this every time I go camping. When I get up and I'm all done, I'm about to leave, I fold my sleeping bag up just to a nice square. And then I'll set like my backpack and stuff. I'll just set, or extra coat. I'll set something that I can sacrifice on top of it. Because just sometimes I don't have the most expensive tent, even though we said to get a good tent. I've done a lot of snow camping like a Coleman Easy Up. So a lot of times you'll get a drip or two. So I'll set something over my sleeping bag, so it's for sure my sleeping bag will for sure stay dry. And in the past, I've actually just grabbed it, stuck it in the back seat of my truck. Like
That's
that
not a
sleeping
bad
bag
idea.
needs to be dry.
Mhm.
Yeah. You don't want to come back after snow wheeling and find out that it thawed enough and you got a big drip on your sleeping bag and there's a big wet spot.
That would
It's
suck.
literally the worst. I learned that. Obviously, I started doing that because I learned it the hard way.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to mention here is planning your campsite. So you can put your tent just about anywhere, but you got to think about it. You don't want it where it's going to be super windy. You need to be sheltered from the wind. And you don't want, like, if something is going to melt, for the water to drain and run into your tent. And the last thing, you don't want to be in a depression, because cold air will settle in a depression in the ground. So you don't want to be in that real low spot. Not only can water settle there, but cold air, the air will be colder sitting in that spot because it won't get blown away by the wind and replaced with warmer air. So yeah, don't get the low spot.
Yeah, and do yourself the favor, and like, we like to drive over where we're gonna park or where we're gonna sleep, so it flattens the area out, because those lumps, if you miss a rock or something like that, if the snow's melted down a little bit, really suck.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. I think we've parted all knowledge we have on this subject. Some of it might have just been wild guesses too, but we did what we could, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone, man. We had a lot of people hang on. I know the show went super long. We really appreciate that. Hope you're enjoying it. Next week, guys, we're doing an episode about trail closures. We're getting somebody from New Jersey to talk about some of the problems they're having there. So tune in for that, man. We got to protect those trails.
Yeah. Like Coy was saying, we appreciate you guys hanging out so long. Thanks for tuning in live. Was it Montana? Where are we at here? I got to scroll back a little ways to find it. Montana Dirt Roads. Glad we had you on the show. Glad you were able to tune in live. We had quite a few new faces on here this week, so a lot of fun. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you're sharing us with your friends. If you think about it, rate us and review us on iTunes. It definitely helps us grow. And God bless America.
Don't forget to visit Patriot Patch and join the Patch of the Month Club. Check out our Gaia affiliate link for up to 40% off. Also, don't forget to head over to Warren Colby Valve and 4 Patriots to see all of their great products. We are a proud part of the Firearms Radio Network. Got a question or comment? Send it to us through our Linktree account or by searching for Off-Road Podcast. Also, you can listen to us live at overlandradio.com Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. When off-road, please remember to have fun, tread lightly, and be safe and courteous. Thanks for listening.
I really want to go snow camping now. What are you doing this weekend, Aaron?
I'm camping.
Where?
In the cold. Survival camp.
Oof.
Yeah, it's going to be an oof.